Hey family, it's Action Jacqueline, your fellow alopecia princess. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. It is September, Alopecia Awareness Month, and I thought it would be a good idea if we had a little discussion. So let's jump right in. What I notice every September is that alopecians start this movement of coming out as bald women. You'll take your wig off and take some beautiful photos and display them on the internet, or you'll use this particular month as your coming out month. This is the month where you decide, okay, I'm now going to present to the public as a bald woman, and I'll feel so much better about myself because I've made this step. One of the most common comments that I receive under my videos is how people love my confidence. And I know why you guys say that. You guys assume that because I can take my wig off on camera that I'm this confident woman. And I challenge you to look at self-esteem differently. I do think it's important that people come out and show their bald head to people who don't have alopecia, because they don't know what it looks like and they only have their imagination to go on. Maybe they think everybody looks like Casper the Friendly Ghost, or maybe they think everyone is walking around with patches of hair on their head. They don't know what to expect, so it's nice to have a point of reference. But taking the wig off is not for everyone, and it's not necessarily a display of self-acceptance. There's really no other condition that we have where we're made to feel like we have to come out publicly with our condition. You know what I mean? Like, let's just imagine breastfeeding. I am a proponent of public breastfeeding. I think that it should be something that's not frowned upon. You know what I mean? That's not to say I'm going to sit down at dinner and like pull out my boob and start feeding my baby at Olive Garden. That's not to say that. Let's talk about homosexuals. Let's say I was gay, right? Am I required to act gay so people could know I'm gay, or dress gay, or can I just be gay without you guys knowing it? You know what I'm saying? So I think that we have to look at self-esteem and removing our hair differently, because just because I can take my wig off doesn't mean that my life is not falling apart in other areas. You know what I mean? If you wanted to ask me where my self-esteem suffers the most, it definitely wouldn't be my hair. It would be career-wise. That would be where my self-esteem suffers the most, because I've never been able to achieve the career success I felt like I deserve. And that's, in fact, just talking about it makes my voice shake, because it's really something that bothers me way more than the alopecia. So when you're looking at your self-esteem, I challenge you to compartmentalize. Your self-esteem, first of all, it's very fluid. You know, just because you have high self-esteem today doesn't mean that tomorrow that won't change, or when you get older, that won't change. In fact, how I feel about my alopecia today, I am so okay with the fact that I have alopecia, with the fact that I'm wearing a wig. I'm so okay with that. But would I take my wig off and go walk down the street today? No. Could I? Yes. Why wouldn't I? That's because I don't feel like I would be presenting myself in my best light. And before you guys jump down my throat, I want to explain that just a little bit. While I did that 20 years ago and again 10 years ago, I was younger then. I was younger. I had a different fashion sense. I was more willing to talk to strangers and explain like what my condition was. I was up for all those challenges. You know what I mean? While I was okay with doing it then, because my self-esteem about my looks, my overall look, was higher then, but my self-esteem today about my overall self-being is higher today. I was okay with the way I looked, but I wasn't okay with the fact that I had this illness and that other people might see me and think that I'm sick. Now, I'm perfectly fine with the fact that I have alopecia, but I don't have the same smooth, plump skin that I had back then. And I also have available these fantastic wigs that look really good, and I know how to style them. So I know that they make me look better. For you guys, that may not be the case. Maybe you really don't look good in wigs. And I've seen a lot of people who do not look good in wigs, probably because they don't know how to style them, probably because they just don't have the face for lots of hair, and wigs generally have lots of hair on them. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think we should be assigning so much of our self-esteem to our willingness to take our wig off and present ourselves in public. The important thing is just knowing that you're okay with what you're working with and talking about the fact that you have no hair. And the reason why I think it's important to talk about that is because, unfortunately, people like to obsess over hair. They'll look at your hair and say, wow, your hair looks great. Where do you get your hair done? People will come to you, oh, is that your hair? It grew so fast. And it's just like, you don't even know how to answer it. It's nice to be able to reach a place where you can answer those questions confidently. Like, oh, it's a wig, and you don't even need to tell anyone more than that if you don't feel like having that discussion. You know what I mean? It's a wig. And then somebody, oh, why do you wear a wig? Listen, because I like to. You could say that, or you could say, well, I have alopecia universalis, and then you could pull out your textbook and show them pictures, illustrations. You can do anything you want, but just be comfortable with it. Self-esteem is something that should be compartmentalized. It's not something that someone can look at you and say, well, if you had high confidence, you would take that wig off and you wouldn't care what anybody thinks. Listen, it's not for anyone else to decide. It's all for you. You don't have to take your wig off to have a good time. And you could also take your wig off and have a fantastic time. It's up to you. And it shouldn't be the thing that defines how you feel about yourself. You know what I mean? I'd love to hear what you guys think about this topic. I know a lot of you have been struggling to reach the point where you can take your wig off in public, and you may feel pretty lousy about yourself because you haven't made it to that point yet. But I would say don't use that to define who you are. If you think you look really good with your wig on, if you think your husband is not going to like it if you present publicly as a bald woman, and it just makes sense in your household to keep your wig on for the peace of mind of your family or whatever. I don't know whatever drives us at certain points in our lives, but for whatever reason you feel like you need to wear it, you're making the right decision for yourself at the time. I think if you want to work on your self-esteem with regard to your alopecia, just get yourself to a point where you're not ashamed to answer the questions anymore, and that's about it. Once you can answer the question confidently and say, yeah, I lost my hair a couple years ago, just never came back. You know what I mean? Once you can say that without feeling like your day is ruined, I think you've reached the point of optimal self-esteem about your alopecia. Great talking to you. Peace.